You know, when we talk about investing, it's always about the returns, right? The percentages, the performance, the outcomes. But what if the number that really matters most isn't a percentage at all? What if we've been laser focused on the wrong thing? See, there's a quieter, much more powerful force at play here, and that's what we're going to dig into today.
And that brings us to the core idea for this whole thing. It sounds so simple, almost obvious, doesn't it? But think about how we actually treat time. We rarely give it the respect it deserves. We see it as this kind of neutral background, something that just happens. But in your financial life, time is anything but passive.
Okay, so what does time actually do? I mean, we've all heard that advice, start early, a million times, but that advice, it barely scratches the surface. It doesn't tell us about the real job of time, how it works, how its role changes, and most importantly, how we can line up our decisions with it.
Here's the big mental shift we need to make. Time is not a passive resource. Nope, it's an active asset. It's a dynamic player in your financial story. It's a tool, and it works for you in some very specific and pretty incredible ways.
So what in the world do I mean by an active asset? Well, think of it this way. Time isn't just sitting on the sidelines. It is actively getting involved in your finances. It has three crucial jobs. It absorbs your mistakes, it amplifies your discipline, and it makes your good decisions incredibly tough and resilient. Let's break each of those down. First up, time is a massive shock absorber. It's forgiving. Made a bad investment? Maybe you bought at the very peak of the market? Hey, it happens. A long time horizon acts like a buffer. It gives markets and your portfolio the breathing room they need to recover, not just from downturns, but from your own mistakes. And then, second, time is like a megaphone for your good habits. Seriously, think about it. Small, consistent things, like saving a little bit each month, can feel, well, kind of insignificant in the moment. But stretch that out over decades, their impact becomes absolutely massive. Time is the engine that turns those small, disciplined habits into life-changing wealth.
And finally, and this one is huge, it makes your good decisions tough as nails. A really solid financial plan can still get knocked off course by one bad, unexpected event, if there isn't enough time to bounce back. But with time on your side, that same exact plan can handle job losses, market crashes, you name it. Time is the ultimate shock absorber.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Time doesn't do the same job forever. Its role changes, and it changes dramatically depending on how much of it you have. This means it really has two completely different functions.
This comparison just shows the two faces of time perfectly. When you have a ton of time, its main job is to forgive. It smooths out the bad years. It lets all that crazy market volatility settle down, and it gives compounding that long runway it needs to do its magic. But when time is limited, its job totally flips. It's all about protection. It demands a margin of safety, and it will harshly punish any financial fragility. It's the same asset, but it's doing a totally different job depending on your timeline.
And that right there is why you can have two people, both super smart, who make the exact same investment and get wildly different results. One person has the luxury of waiting out the storm, the other one doesn't. One can recover from a loss while the other has to avoid it at all costs. The real difference isn't their IQ, it's their timeline.
So we've been talking about time in terms of years, right? But that's honestly just scratching the surface. There are these hidden dimensions to time that are quietly eating away at our financial health. Dimensions we almost never think about.
Time is also measured in your attention. How much of your day is spent checking your portfolio? How much emotional energy are you burning by reacting to every little up and down in the market? A financial system that needs you to constantly watch over it is stealing your time, even if the returns look good on paper. That theft of your mental energy, it doesn't show up on any balance sheet, but trust me, it is very, very real. So if time is this super valuable asset, how do we actually protect it? Well, you build a system around it. This is where the practical stuff comes in. Having cash on hand isn't just about being safe. It protects your time by making sure you're never forced to sell your investments at the absolute worst moment. A solid savings cushion protects your time by cutting down on that day-to-day financial stress and urgency. And a stable income, that protects your time by letting your investments do their thing without you needing to obsess over them every single day.
So when you pull it all together, you start to realize that the ultimate goal here isn't just about piling up more money or chasing the highest possible returns. The real goal is to align your financial strategy with the reality of your own personal timeline.
And this right here is why comparing your financial situation to someone else's is one of the most dangerous things you can do. When you see someone taking a huge risk and it's paying off, you're not just seeing their portfolio, you're seeing their time horizon, which might be completely different from yours.
Borrowing their confidence without also borrowing their timeline is a recipe for disaster.
And look, it's so important to remember this. The goal is alignment. It's not perfection. You're not always going to make the perfect call. Nobody does. But if you make choices that make sense for the time you actually have, you dramatically cut down your chances of regret. That quiet confidence comes from knowing your choices were smart, given your own constraints, no matter what the outcome was.
So if there's just one thing you walk away with today, I want it to be this. You are not compounding money. Money is just how we keep score. What you are actually compounding is time. When you start to see time as the precious, active asset it really is, and you build your financial life to protect it and leverage it, the returns have a funny way of taking care of themselves. Because real wealth isn't a number in an account. It's a life where time is finally, truly on your side. So the real question you got to ask yourself is this. Are your financial decisions buying you more time, or are they costing you?